right. So just to review, we had looked at resveratrol, which you can get from red grapes, omega-3 fatty acids, different vitamins, light, water, and then a couple of things that are harmful for us, like a high fat and sugar diet or drugs. And we looked at a couple of character traits, self-control and gratitude. Okay, so yesterday somebody had asked how much of sunlight exposure we need for different skin types. So I've just got this table here, and I hope this will help you. So remember that it depends on skin type and UV index. Okay, so UV index will change from place to place. It will change across the time of the day, and it will change also across the year. You can go to weather.com, search for your city or the closest city, and it will tell you at each, if you look, they have an option to look at the weather hourly or daily. If you look at the hourly option, you can see for every hour what the UV index is. Okay, so I was just looking at the UV index in Bangalore, and I think my skin type will fall under the last kind, which is between 5 and 6. And around 9:30 is when the UV index moved to 5. So for me, typically, if I want to have enough of vitamin D, 3 times a week, I need to expose my full arms and legs to direct sunlight. So if it was today at 9 o'clock, 9:30, I would have to do it for 40 to 60 minutes. However, if I went to about midday, then it was around 8 to 10, and that would reduce the time exposure to 20 to 30 minutes. Now, I can also choose to do it 6 times a week, right? Then I just need to do maybe 20 to 30 minutes of 3 to 5 UV index. Okay, so you need to keep track of as the season is changing, that the UV index across the day will also change. So maybe midday might be too hot for you, so go to the earliest that you can. Okay, and you will see, it will show you at quite some, like even after the sun has at a sunrise, you will still see that the UV index is 0. It really needs to progress a bit through the day. Okay, if it is cloudy, you won't get vitamin D. You'll get the other benefits of light, but your body will not convert cholesterol to vitamin D. Okay, so I hope this helps. All right, so let's get into emotional intelligence. Okay. Can you see my screen as full screen? I got a message that it's...
Yes.
Okay.
Now we can.
Okay. That's good. All right. So we had looked at emotional intelligence on day 1, and we had seen that, a good robust definition of it from Mayer and Salovey is the ability to monitor my own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different emotions and give them proper, appropriate, accurate labels, and then to use this information, emotional information, to guide thinking and behavior. And we also mentioned that emotional intelligence, or EQ, contributes to more successful and enjoyable living than IQ itself. And also, we had mentioned that Daniel Goleman, who is a scientific journalist, also a psychologist, he was the one who popularized this concept through his book Emotional Intelligence. Now, Daniel Goleman also came up with different components of emotional intelligence. and there are 5 of them. We look at each one of these briefly. The first is self awareness, right? To know our own emotions, also to know what are our own strengths, our weaknesses, what drives us to achieve goals, what are our values, and also to be aware of the impact that we are having on others across the day in various situations. So, this is something that, with everything in emotional intelligence, it really takes time to think about different things. So, as I mentioned, as I recommended yesterday, it will be good for all of us to take time every day, probably at the end of the day, and to go through what has happened through the day and how we've processed things, how we've reacted to things, and start journaling it all down, because then when we have as we start writing things, as we start seeing patterns, then that helps us to be more self-aware. Well, then also another component of emotional IQ is self-regulation, and this is about managing our emotions. We have different emotions, but what do we do with them? Supposing we have this impulse, a sudden impulse to do something, or our moods, it's not the best. Do we control them? Can we redirect them so to a proper, more positive way of dealing with things? That is self-regulation. Okay, then social skills. Social skills are about building relationships, making friends, or um, the various relationships that you have, siblings and parents and colleagues and classmates, whatever it may be, to build a rapport with these people that we come in contact with, and not just doing it once in a lifetime, but can about sustaining those relationships and managing those relationships through good and easy times and also challenging times when when we have conflicting ideas, or we have different opinions and we disagree. Managing those situations, managing relationships at those times, all of these come under social skills. Empathy is not only about being in another person's shoes. It's also recognizing what emotions they are going through, and when we are making decisions, to take into account what other people's feelings may be, if those decisions influence or impact them in any way. It doesn't mean we sacrifice principle, but when we make that decision, we consider everyone. And when we execute the decision, we are still taking into consideration what other people may be thinking about it, what their emotions may be around that. Okay, and then motivation. Um, how can I motivate myself to reach my goal? What motivates me? That comes under self awareness. And then actually doing it, right? That is another thing altogether. But also being aware of what motivates others, what motivates my family members, what motivates my friends, my colleagues, what motivates my classmates, if I can influence them. Being aware of that is very powerful. And another important thing in motivation is to enjoy the achievement in reaching a goal for itself, right? Sometimes what we can do is we can um, exter- overdo the external reward. Now, we are made in such a way that when we accomplish a task, when we finish a job, and we recognize that, okay, I've cleaned my cupboard, it's all neat now. Dopamine is released in our brain, and it gives us that intrinsic, that internal reward. we feel content and satisfied. But I think nowadays, because we are aware of this reward system, we may be overdoing the external reward system, wherein that I say, okay, I'm going, if I finish doing all my homework, then I'm going to reward myself by, I don't know, um, maybe going and painting something. Um, and that is not really healthy to overdo external rewarding. But just enjoying the satisfaction of accomplishing something, of reaching a goal. We have to learn to be content with just that itself. Then, for behaviors that are difficult, we are that it's really hard. That's when we will incorporate the external reward system. So if you are parents, if you are teachers, keep that in mind when you are motivating students or motivating children, or even as employers, anyone that you need to motivate. Keep that healthy balance of, when that they will have satisfaction when they reach a certain goal. They will have that internally. And there are just few times when you need to provide that external system of rewarding. So these are the 5 concepts of emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence has various influences, and it can, things that influence us are definitely our genetic makeup, also what we've gone through as children. Those experiences really play an important part on our emotional intelligence. If it has been positive, that's good. If it has been negative, then we need to work on things and change our mindset. We'll come to that shortly. Also, it depends on the kind of the current support, emotional support we have. Is there someone that you can talk to if things are going bad? Do you have people around you who will uphold you? Even if maybe you made mistakes, to just be there for you and to help you through those times. Or if the situation is difficult, whatever it is, right, that you have that emotional support. Or when you're going through a great wonderful time, that you're able to express how wonderful life is to somebody. That also influences our emotional intelligence. Then also physical conditions definitely influence our emotional intelligence. Like if we've not had inadequate sleep, or our nutrition is all out of whack, or we are sick, those can negatively contribute um, to our emotional intelligence. There are some major influences on emotional intelligence. Our belief system, it can make a huge difference on our emotional intelligence. The way we evaluate events, that is also another huge contributor on our EQ. The way we think about problems, do we think that problems should never occur? And how we process them, how we deal with them, those two. Also, another very important thing is what we tell ourselves, self talk. Is it optimistic? Is it pessimistic? Also, are we being realistic? Those are some influences, major influences. So remember that what we think really affects who we are. Now, there is this wonderful therapy that evidence based research has proved to really work across different situations. It's used for addiction recovery, it's used in different behavioral change, or even for certain mental disorders. It's been proved to be a really good therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, in short, CBT. Now, the way that a lot of people look at why they react right? Why they have certain emotions or why they behave in a certain way is based on an activating event. Something happened or somebody did something, and that is why I have these feelings, or that is why I am behaving in this way. Now, CBT terms that as crooked thinking. Okay, that we say that my behavior, my emotion is because of this circumstance, is because of this event that occurred, because of this person's actions. That's crooked thinking. The truth is that there is something between the activating event and that consequence, and this is called the ABC model of cognitive behavioral therapy. In between this activating event and our reaction to that event is our belief system. Okay, our thoughts based on a belief system can be either rational or irrational. Our beliefs itself could be rational or irrational. And so, based on what we believe, that is what the consequence is going to be of that activating event, right? And so, once we understand, okay, my belief is wrong, then what happens is we can start changing our behavior, changing our emotions. And that is a key way to sort out a lot of issues, right? For example, somebody is trying to overcome smoking, right? Now, this person then understands this, or maybe with the help of a counselor, they go through this session, and the counselor will ask the person who's trying to give up smoking tobacco to write down different events following which he or she smokes, right? And so let's say the person finds out that um, they smoke when they feel lonely, and their belief might be that I should never be alone. If I am alone, then it's bad. It's terrible. It means that I'm not a nice person to be around with. So then that belief has to be changed, that it's okay to be alone. There are a lot of things I can do by myself. And I can grow at these times of being alone. I don't have to be lonely. Or if this is happening too much, I can put effort into seeking what my friends are doing, what is my family doing at this time, and spend time with them. So that's a very simplified example. So identifying what our beliefs are is very important in this process of CBT. And so we call the irrational thinking, the irrational belief, the irrational thoughts as cognitive distortions. And today we'll go through 4 of them, and tomorrow we'll go through the rest of them. The first distortion is the all or nothing distortion. In this distortion, it's also called as the black and white distortion, black or white distortion. So the person sees situations, it has to be either this or that. There's no in between. Okay, for example, a person can be only intelligent or only stupid. A person can be only beautiful or only ugly, right? Um, and so this can result in different things. It can result in a very low self-worth, feeling of self-worth. It can lead to procrastination. It can also lead to suicidal thoughts. Um, for example, a student who's writing 10th standard exams might think that only if I pass exams is life worth living. If I pass the board exams, life is worth living. So what does that mean? If I don't pass the exams, life is not worth living. You can see it's in reality that's not true. Um, A lot of people have gone through failures, but they have made such remarkable contributions to society in spite of it, and they stand out, right? So it's not true that if I fail my 10th standard exams, that life is not worth living at all. But someone who has that kind of thinking will then ultimately go and do what? Will go and commit suicide, right? That is one kind of distortion. And so some examples are, could say, everyone hates me, right? So when we think about it, we realize that, oh, this is what I'm telling myself. Then we have to think that. And we think through it. And the truth is that no, not everyone hates me. There are people who really care for me, right? And so I have to correct that distorted thought. Or I'm stupid, really stupid. I look at my results in maths. Wow, it's terrible. Uh, but then when I am thinking about it, now I'm rationalizing and saying, what happened? Why did I freak out when I saw my maths marks? Um, and I think about it, then I can correct that distortion. Say, well, I'm really good at English. I seem to have a really good flair for writing, and I scored well. Maybe math is not my thing. I'll do my best, but this is another subject that, well, maybe I can spend the rest of my life dealing with, right? Or so you have to think through things. So as we are going through this again, it's not just information. It's for all of us to take the time to see, okay, do I have any cognitive distortions? What are they? And then changing those distortions, which then improves our emotional intelligence. And then later on, we can help other people who are going through difficult situations and who might have seen that we handled a very good situation and they come and ask for help, right? Then we can also help people because we practiced it on ourselves. Okay, the next distortion is overgeneralization. Okay, so in overgeneralization, we use limited, just limited factual evidence and come up with this belief that is not true. Okay, or maybe it's just a maybe, right? It could be a maybe not, but we hold on to that as if it is a fact. Or we see something happening consecutively for a couple of times and then we apply that to the rest, right? For example, we've gone through 2 jobs, and each time in each of the jobs, the employer has behaved in a certain way. And then we might overgeneralize and say, employers always are like this. Okay, watch out for the words always, never. Those are overgeneralizing thoughts. So some examples for overgeneralization could be, um, she never cleans the kitchen, right? Um, there's absolutely no way out of any problem. So we have to correct that, right? It might be that she has been cleaning the kitchen. It's just that we didn't notice when the kitchen was clean and then it became dirty again, right? With problems, there's a solution. Maybe right now we may not know how to immediately deal with it, but we can pause, and maybe tomorrow we might be able to think about something, or somebody might be able to give us advice how to deal with it, right? So that is overgeneralization. The next is mental filter. Okay, so in mental filters, what we tend to do, this particular distortion, is that we single out few things, few aspects of a situation when there are so many other aspects, so many other factors that have contributed to what has happened. and we just single out one or just few of them, and then we hold on to that, right? So we have to challenge ourselves to look at our mental filters and challenge ourselves to see, is there another way to think about this? Is it possible? Is there another reason that this particular thing could have happened? um, so that is with mental filters, right? Some examples of mental filters are, it could be like when you're looking at pictures on social media, right? This, wow, look at this family. All the pictures, they look so happy, so perfect. But the fact, when you actually think about it and you're correcting the distortion, all families have some challenges, right? And then there are good times in every family. We have to put effort into enjoying each other as a family, right? Or um, you've worked on this project, you had to head it, and after showcasing it to your boss, you come back and you say, my boss review was only had only criticisms, only criticizing. That's only what happened. But when you think back, and if you think back, only then you can look at it and see that um, my boss gave me both positive feedback as well as opportunities for improvement, right? Um, so that is with mental filters. Another distortion is just disqualifying all the positive and harping on the negative. Okay, you, people may even um, recognize or give thought that, okay, yes, this positive thing does um, exist, but the the way they actually believe that that positive thing actually has is of no value. Okay, so they disqualify all the positive. So, for example, a student may have got A's in all subjects and just one C, right? And we think that, what a pathetic student I am. What has that student done? They've just disqualified all the positive, right? Instead of that, the student can recognize, say, wow, I've got A's, and this one C is there, but I am faithfully studying. I am doing my best, and this is my best. And it's okay. It's okay if there's one C. The rest show the hard work that I have put into it, into my studies. Okay, another example may be that, oh, I have to give up caffeine. Now I'm only going to have headache. Um, for a few days, it's just going to be headaches and headaches. But we've just disqualified the rest, that my brain cells are going to be free. I'm not going to depend on the stimulant for staying focused or for doing my best, and my neurons are going to be healthy. We throw out all, instead of thinking of that, we've thrown out all the positive and we are focusing on the negative, right? So we have, if we have come across through a negative situation during our reflection time, then we have to see why we have this negative sensation to that particular situation, right? And then think about it and see, has there been a distortion in my belief, in my reasoning? And then we have to start correcting it. But also, um, look at the positive things that happened during the day and say that, why was it positive? What made it a positive experience? And see how you handle it. What was your cognitions about the whole thing, your thought process about the whole thing, what beliefs played into it, and take an account and keep an account, journal all these things. They will really, really help you with your emotional intelligence. Okay, so the all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, mental filters, disqualifying the positive are some cognitive distortions that we've looked. Now, according to Professor Pucci, um, excuse me, he has shown that there are three aspects of rational thinking. The first is that thought must be accurate. Okay, so if you're thinking about having so many A's and one C, right? The thought that you're having about it and how it's affecting your emotion, that thought has to be accurate. Then the thought also must help you achieve your goal. Okay, so first of all, do we have goals? So it's a good thing to jot down what our goals are, right? And we'll have to do that ever so often, because as we achieve one goal, then another goal will be set or needs to be set. So then the thought must help you feel the way you want to feel, right? The whole process of this cognitive behavior therapy is to come to a positive way of um, ha- a positive way of behaving and having positive emotions, right? So if we've been thinking that, okay, now this is my rational thought, but it's not helping me feel calm, then I have to question it. Is it accurate? Is this a thought that is going to help me achieve my goal? And then I have to correct it, right? So these are some things that can help us with many, many behavioral traits. If you think that oh, I really have an anger issue, I really need to manage it, this is something that you could use. Or any kind of any behavior that you want to change, is to see that, okay, this is what happened, this is how I reacted, or this is how I felt. Now what is the underlying belief behind my reaction? And then to see that, oh, this is a distortion, I need to change it, right? And so once you change it, then it should give you that sense of calmness and peace to accept that situation, or to then take appropriate action to meet that situation. All right. So coming to the character traits for the day, our first one is on kindness. There is a story in the Bible about Joseph. He was the son of Jacob. He was the 11th son of Jacob. And his brothers were extremely jealous about him. So when the opportunity rose, they sold him as a slave. And finally, he was sold to be as a slave of an official of the Egyptians. His name is Potiphar. But Joseph, he worked hard, he worked faithfully and sincerely, and his boss recognized that, and he started giving him leadership roles. Now, the wife of Potiphar tried seducing Joseph, and he didn't give in to her. So she was upset and she twisted the story, and Potiphar put Joseph in jail. But even in jail, he continued to be, faithful and sincere. And he had the gift for interpreting dreams. So he had interpreted the dreams of two officials of Pharaoh, and those dreams came out true. According to one of those dreams, one of those officials put in prison would be put back into his official position. But this person, and Joseph told him, remember, when you get back, everything is set right. Remember me. But he forgot, and then Pharaoh had some dreams. Then he remembered that, oh, Joseph has this gift of interpretation, and they called for Joseph. Joseph said, there's famine. There's going to be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. That's what your dream means. and he gave good counsel to Pharaoh. And so Pharaoh put him in charge of how to save enough of food during the 7 years of plenty for the 7 years of famine. Now, all this time, Joseph must have missed home, isn't it? Now, when the 7 years of famine came, um, who should come to Egypt asking for trying to buy some food for themselves but Joseph's brothers? And Joseph could recognize them, but they couldn't because Pharaoh had made him just below himself, second to the Pharaoh. He looks all different now. But and Joseph could have really used this opportunity to show them who he was, and what they did was really wrong. But instead, he reacted kindly, and through a series of different events, he brought his brothers to live, and their family and the entire family to live in Egypt, and took care of them. How do you react to people who have not been kind to you? Do we, you and I, consistently show kindness? Well, let's do our self test for kindness. Okay. So you can answer this from strongly agree and in between to strongly disagree. And keep a note, right? So the first statement for you to evaluate yourself on: others are just as important as I. The second one: all human beings are of infinite value because we are created by an infinite God. The third one: I care for the ungrateful as well as the grateful. Or do we become discouraged when we've shown kindness to someone and they just are so ungrateful? And we have to repel those emotions of feeling discouraged when someone is being ungrateful to the kindness we've shown. We really need to learn that. 4, people who are suffering need compassion. They need compassion, right? Rather than trying to justify that what they're going through, they deserve it. They need compassion. What do you think? 5, do you believe giving is more important than receiving? Okay, so if you have agreed to most of these statements, then, well, you do have kindness. If we have not, then, well, we can develop kindness, right? We can make that decision that, okay, I am going to be kind. And then we can look for opportunities to be kind to someone. And when we see that, oh, here's an opportunity, we should act, we should be kind. Another thing that we can do is to show kindness anonymously. Do something good for someone without them knowing that you did it. Okay, that's another thing. Also, be kind to yourself. And when somebody shows kindness to you, accept that kindness graciously. Okay, if they compliment you, sometimes we have this. We want to be modest, and so when somebody compliments us, oh, no, 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 not like this or something, to be modest. That's not the right modesty. If credit has to be given to somebody else, yes, give that credit to someone, but also appreciate the appreciation, right? All right. So our second character trait for the day is social intelligence. Now, Daniel Goleman, in his book, he wrote about different kinds of intelligences, and one of them was social intelligence. Now, Abraham Lincoln is known for his emotional intelligence. He was someone that even his enemies would say that he never held a grudge against anyone. And when he knew that someone is qualified and is talented, he would appoint them in positions of the government, even though that person hated him. And people who disliked him or didn't agree with him, when they just came in contact with him for just few moments, they would feel they would think that he's really a nice man. There was this British journalist who criticized a lot of the policies that Abraham Lincoln had made. But when he met him, he was so taken aback by how humble Abraham Lincoln was, and he made a statement that said, "In my life, in my life I have seen a good number of men distinguished by their talents or their station. But I never saw anyone so apparently unconscious that this distinction conferred upon him any superiority." He was really taken back by Abraham Lincoln's humbleness. Sometimes his friends would try to correct him for being kind to his enemies, and then Abraham Lincoln would tell them, "Am I not destroying my enemies by making them my friends?" I think that's really good attitude, isn't it? And some movies may have mischaracterized him, but he never held grudges against people. He was honest to the core, and he not only acted honestly, he also thought honestly. But he never compromised on his principles. And in spite of being someone who never compromised on his principles, he was very kind to people around him. And so, because, of his accurate, non distorted, kind thoughts, he is looked upon as one of the giants in the field of social intelligence. I think we have so much to learn from him, right? To consistently be this person, whether people hate us or not, whether circumstance is kind to us or not, to be a consistently positive person and to also manifest that to others. Okay, so thinking about thoughts. Okay, let's see. Thinking about social intelligence. Let's see what our social intelligence self-test says. So the first one is, I can identify emotions in the faces and voices of others. Have I ever taken the time to do it? The second one, I'm able to manage my relationships well. Do I know or do I don't know? The third one, I can use social information to help others get along. I'm able to act wisely in relationship with others. And the last one, I can usually manage my emotions and help others manage theirs. That's social intelligence, right? Because it's not only about us, it's about us and how we interact, we deal with others. So what did you choose? If you've chosen agree to most of these statements, then wow, you're socially intelligent. But supposing we've scored less, what can we do? Well, there are some things that we can try to improve our social intelligence. One is we can try to volunteer to do something for somebody else. There's so many opportunities all around us to volunteer. We can start learning how to read facial expressions. That doesn't mean we are guessing, we are doing mind reading. No. But people do have facial expressions. We can see whether they're hurt, they're happy, they agree. So let's take time to learn how to study faces, right? We can also learn to be someone who has a good humor. We like being around people who smile and laugh, right? More than people who are cranky and sad. And are always critical of others. So let's be a person who smiles, who laughs. That definitely contributes to social intelligence. And then practice these few things. We might make mistakes, but then we learn that, okay, this is one way how not to do something. It might be embarrassing, but tomorrow we'll do it well and we'll do it right, or maybe day after tomorrow. So practice not only social intelligence, everything that we've been learning, right? So we've been thinking a lot about our thoughts. What are our thoughts towards different situations about ourselves? I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about the Creator? Do you have no thoughts? Do you think that he's far removed? He's not interested in such a little thing as me? Um, do you think he's someone who's just waiting for me to make a mistake? And then when I make a mistake, then something bad is going to happen. That's the way he's correcting me. As we've been seeing, the way we've been designed, definitely we have a designer. It is impossible for a creature like us and creation around us with such minute details to not have a designer. So there is a designer. We've also seen that we have this power of choice and we have the freedom to make choices, which can only come out of a heart of love. And so, do you know what the thoughts of your Creator are to you? I love this promise from Scripture. It always gives me peace and assurance, and I wanted to share it with you today. It says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you," says the Lord. This is the Creator saying it to us. What are His thoughts? Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Maybe our distortions are because we don't have a right understanding of our Creator. So start questioning, what is my Creator really like? Yes, He's infinite. I cannot understand all of Him, but He has revealed Himself. And what He has revealed, we can learn and learn and learn and learn and never stop learning. So start understanding who our Creator is and those thoughts of peace that are not of evil, those thoughts that want to give us a future and a hope. So with this, we will end today's session, and I hope that you will have a really good evening, that you will have time to reflect and think about how we have been dealing with situations, if there are distorted thoughts, to correct it, and also to seek after our Creator, to get to know Him better and His plans for us.